Hi everyone, this is my video about what's wrong with the Godfather franchise. YouTube basically ordered me to make this video. Well, not this particular video, but a video. Um, I guess if you don't make a video on a monetized channel for 6 months, they remove the monetization. Um, so here we go. I actually did a video about a month or two ago. I was driving. I'm in the car, but I'm parked right now. It was the entire Dirty Harry franchise, but it was from memory, and I had seen the entire franchise over like a month, 2 months prior. So half of the video was just me saying, in the third movie, Magnum Force. Wait, no, that's the second one. Wait, is it the first one? Is it the third? So it was not good. With the Godfather movies, I've watched all three of them over the last week. So it's all very fresh in my mind. Although, I had to go to the Wikipedia for the Godfather Part III, because now it is the Godfather Coda, the death of Michael Corleone. Spoilers. But then I went to the Wikipedia, and I guess there's 3 different versions of the third Godfather movie. I don't like that. I just want to see whatever was in the theaters. And supposedly they did a second version of the third movie that added a lot of stuff and took stuff out. With this one, I think they only added like just a little bit at the beginning. That's what the Wikipedia said. I haven't seen the third movie in 34 years since it was in the theaters. I remember it was just when I started having a car and going to the theater, and I had a little bit of spending money from a part-time job. So I was very, very excited. It's like, I can go to the movies. I don't have to wait for my mommy to take me. So it was very exciting. I was going to the movies pretty much every weekend. And I remember I hadn't seen the Godfather movies, but I knew that they were a big deal. So I was very excited to see the third one, even though I remember it being not a flop, but really underperforming. But I checked the Wikipedia; it did just fine, and the reviews were just fine. I don't know. Maybe I saw a few bad reviews and thought everyone hated it. But to me, it was, quote, my Godfather movie since I saw it in the theaters. So I always had it had a special place in my heart, and it always gets maligned as the worst Godfather movie. And it is, but that's not. It's like being told you're the third best lover in the world. Like, you're doing great. Well, it's not the third best movie, but so the other thing that's funny about the first 2 movies is I remember during like the heyday of Blockbuster through the mail and this company called Netflix. And I was just watching everything. So I remembered seeing the first 2 movies, but I don't think I did. Because I just watched the first movie, Godfather Part 1, like a week ago. And only about half of that seemed familiar. And I think it's just the clips that they always show and they parody. And then the second one, like none of it was familiar. So I don't think I ever saw the second one, even though I gaslit myself that I did. So one of the things I always thought was very funny was that clip from Family Guy where I think they're drowning, and then they all have their last thing they want to say, and then the dad is like, I didn't like The Godfather. And everyone's like freaking out, even though they're dying. It's like, you gotta like it. He goes, it insists upon itself. And that's what I did kind of glean from what I had seen of specifically the first movie, is that it felt like, not snooty, but like it was kind of arrogant. It's like, I know this is good and you have to like this movie. And the thing is, it is good. Technically, you don't have to like it, but I dare you to not like it. The first movie is legitimately excellent. My only real critique is that after Vito Corleone is shot, and then he like goes back home, it kind of slows down. It had like a great pace. I mean, it looks great. It's got that cinematography where like the blacks are like actually the black colors, not black people. The blacks are like really dark and rich, and it just looks fantastic. So it's a classic. It's one of those things. It's like Game of Thrones. It's so much in the pop culture that like you don't have to see Game of Thrones. I know just hearing jokes and seeing clips and TikToks. Same thing with The Sopranos and the first Godfather movie. Even if you haven't seen it before, you know it's like, oh, I know Fredo's gonna fumble the ball. I know Sonny's about to get shot. Like you kind of know what's about to happen because like just if you're just in Western society, somehow you have absorbed The Godfather Part 1. It's an excellent movie. It's so funny to get older and like watch movies and then look it up, and it's like Marlon Brando was my age when he was playing Vito Corleone. I love the first movie. Like I said, it's kind of weird. Like if you haven't seen the first movie, you actually have. Like you know the entire thing. Great performances, great look. I saw that. What was it called? The Offer, the miniseries that came out like 2 years ago. I like that. I knew that it was very kind of cheesy, like a cheesy take on it. And it's weird. Like they treated like Francis Ford Coppola like he was like a sitcom character. It's like, oh, here comes that visionary director, doopy-doo, to make the producer like the hero. But I actually really did like that miniseries. And the first one is just fantastic. Although I was going to Chat GPT because I was confused of a few things. So at one point, Michael gets his wig rocked by this police captain, and he wants to kill him. But it just seems like he just like maybe broke his jaw. It's like, okay, you get it wired shut for 6 weeks, and then you're essentially fine. But then when he went to Sicily after he killed the captain, like he still had like makeup like injury. I'm like, what the hell? He got his jaw broken. It's not going to be like, but apparently in the book, it wasn't just like a broken jaw. Like he was actually like crushed skull. He was disfigured. So that's why they throw in this weird line about, oh, you had some really great plastic surgery. I'm like, he just had like a bruise under his eye in Sicily. It wasn't really that bad. But so again, like it's kind of hard to like reviewing the first Godfather movie is, especially if you grew up in the 70s, 80s, 90s with all the references and all the movies, and it's like hey, can you review the taste of your own mouth? Like what, like when I wake up? No, when you've brushed your teeth but that's worn off and there's just no taste. It's just, what does your tongue taste like? So the second one I really hadn't seen because that one doesn't get referenced that much. Just a few scenes from the second one. I didn't like the second one, although it's still good. To me, it's very different. So the reason that they changed, or Francis Ford Coppola changed the name of the third movie, is that the first two are based on the novel. And so it's like one story. That's why it's part 1, part 2. Part 3 is not the novel. It's just another story set 20 years later. So it doesn't make sense to call it part 3. So that's why he called it a coda, and the first two are a duopoly. But I'm saying, like, if the first two movies are just like the whole novel, like they should match better than they do. You can tell, like, there's different producers. You can tell that the studio is kind of off of his case. They were very much on his case during the first one. The producers were on Francis Ford Coppola's case, and he rose to the challenge. And you can really feel where it was like, oh, you're a genius, just do whatever. So it's like, it's slow, the pacing is off, it's really dour and dark, and like the thing I remember about the first movie is, besides a little slow section towards the end, like it just clips along. But the thing I like even more is that, like, every performance is good. Every single performance, like Alex Rocco, who plays the guy who owns a casino, except for this weird like ADR where there's like, I talked to Barzini. Besides that, everything's perfect. Oh, I forgot to mention Clemenza. There are so many rich characters in the first one, and Clemenza, the actor, didn't want to, or it just didn't work. They were negotiating, it didn't work. So they gave his storyline to this guy, Pentangeli, who was an actor, but he was more importantly an acting teacher, a good one. And he was hired like at the last moment. He's a great character, but like the performances are good, and it's just like, I don't want them to be at Lake, not Lake Como, the Lake Tahoe. Like, oh, you're at Lake Tahoe and you're going to go back. No, you're just going to, oh, you just be there like, oh, but you're going to go to Vegas, but mostly at Lake Tahoe. Okay. It's long, it's slow. And then they have this thing where they have like a flashback story to Vito from going from Sicily and then in New York City. And I have never seen a story that has zero twists. Like, that is, like, first of all, it's kind of weird. If I remember correctly, the first flashback is like almost like an hour into the second movie. And you're like, oh, I forgot this has a flashback. And then, like, they have it, and then it's like 20 minutes later, and it's 20 minutes later, and then it's done. And, like, there's no twist. It's like, oh, his family got killed in Sicily, and he went to America, and then he got kind of pressured into the mob, and then he wanted to kill a guy, and then he killed him. You're like, okay. The end. But one weird thing is that, like I said, just the first and the second one, they're supposedly part one and part two of the same story, but it doesn't. There's so many differences in tone and pacing and acting style and direction, and just like the pressure that forms a diamond, it isn't there. So then for the third movie, which I saw in the theaters, I think I confused it with Bugsy, because I remember seeing it in the theaters like 5 times, and like the whole last hour is really boring. It's like, no, I don't think I did that. I think I'm confusing that with like Carlito's Way or Bugsy. Those were some mafia movies that I really, really liked and saw like a million times. But the third one, I remember it being like I said, like a flop, underperforming. But I looked it up and it wasn't. And man, the first hour is good. They got Vincent, who is Sonny's son, and he's the new character. Yeah, they got Sofia Coppola, and she's not that great at acting. I remember she really just got hammered for her acting, but her character is supposed to be callow and shy, and I thought she portrayed that very well. So I'm blanking on his name. But the actor who played Vincent is just so good. It's such a rich role. And the first hour where he's like trying to get in with the family, and then he's got this enemy, Joey Zaza, and Joey Zaza is just fantastic. And you're like, oh, these are like the really rich characters with the great performances that we saw from like the first movie, where the second one's very dour. And then like Joey Zaza gets killed like an hour in, and you're like, fuck, there's like an hour and a half left. And then it's just like, they go to Sicily, and it's just like, eh. It's like an hour and a half of like, eh. Oh, I remember that guy from the second movie. He's just in the Vatican, and he can just like assassinate people in the Vatican. Like, there's no, oh, here's Tom Hagen's son. Okay, what's he gonna do? Nothing. Basically nothing. You know? There's a lot of that. There is I liked Michael being older. When I saw the third one for the first time, I didn't get, like, everyone knows, like, oh, Fredo, you betrayed us, and everyone knows that Fredo got killed in the second one, but like, I didn't understand that. I thought he had to be killed. You watch the second one, and he was already in exile. It was just like, hey, coordinate with me so we don't visit our mom at the same time, because you're dead to me. And then once the mom died, he kills him, like, but nothing, like, he didn't have to. So you're like, oh, geez. So when you see that one, you're kind of like, man, fuck this guy. And he's older and he's being nice, but still, it's just kind of like, you murdered your brother and you're like lying about it. And the other thing that's kind of weird is like, they talk about finance, and to me, the numbers are just way too large. Like, the Corleones can just like loan people $700 million. It's like, and then at one point he's like paying out all the people who had loaned him money to buy casinos, and it's like, here's a check for $50 million, and you get one, and you get one. It's like, what do you own, the earth? Like, these numbers are too large, even for 1990. So I forgot how downbeat the ending is. Totally forgot that. Unless the Wikipedia is wrong and they seriously changed the end. But the Wikipedia told me they only changed just a few minutes at the beginning. Yeah, it's just like, it just makes you really miss Vito and Marlon Brando's performance, because Michael Corleone did not have it in him. He was not a good Don ever. And it's like 2.25 movies of him being the Don, and oh, he sucks. So overall, I would recommend the series, at least the first, well, definitely the first one. The first one is like mandatory viewing. The second one is like, oh, I want to see how it ends. It's like, if it's just for fun and you're not like a huge mafia film fan, well, first of all, you probably already saw the first one. And if you haven't seen the third one because you've heard it's terrible and it flopped, it's not terrible and it didn't flop. It's boring. It's very downbeat. No, the last hour is kind of boring. The ending is very downbeat. But, man, like, the first hour, the good stuff in the first hour is as good as a lot of the stuff from the first movie. I can definitely see... for rewatch value, I think I'm good on the third one. Yeah, I'm fine. The second one, never again. The first one, that's definitely a movie that you want to, not every year. You know, it's not The Wizard of Oz. I know people don't watch The Wizard of Oz every year anymore, but when I was a kid, everyone watched The Wizard of Oz once a year. But that's one of those ones where you don't want to go 20, 30 years. Like, probably every 5 years or so, yeah, definitely. And you're like, oh, I've seen it before. Go check it out. You might have forgotten how truly excellent the first movie is. So that's my video about what's wrong with the Godfather franchise. Thanks. Bye.